month we pick a different topic. So today we're going to talk about your ego, but specifically dissolving the negative part of your ego. So full disclosure, when I started this many years ago, I was much more aggressive, I'm going to use that word, forceful. So I would never use the word dissolve. I would have said like destroy, crush, smash. So now I'm mellowing out. So I realized, I said just let's calm it down and say dissolve. So we're going to talk about that. So one of the things with these principles, one of the things when you're doing this work is there's a lot of things that are on the, I have to think of it as on the fringe or on the line that are part of being human that we cannot completely remove. And ego is one of those things. Judgment is one, expectations are one. We're trying to minimize it, but we can't actually stop it 100%. It can't be done. So what we want to focus on today is how your ego works, why you need it, and understanding how to dissolve the part of it that is causing you pain. So when I think of the word ego, we all have our own kind of idea, right? How many of you would have a negative feeling about that word? Maybe right? Yeah, I think a lot of us do. So how many of you grew up with that, oh, don't have a big ego, you don't want to, oh, that person has such a big ego. So I think a lot of us have a negative association to the word ego. We just think it's a bad thing. And actually, if you look up the definition of ego, it is the self as self-aware. That is the definition of what ego really is. But we, of course, see it as something else. So I want to go back to really explain this, to go back to the beginning of how it really works, and then we can start working through it. And then we like to be interactive. If you have questions or whatever, feel free to be involved. When we think about the ego, when we come here, we are all one energy. We're all source. Part of the journey here, or the experience that we came to have, is believing that we are separate. So we all think we're separate, and we're actually not. Now there are other places where people can go, because this is not the only planet that has life, where they don't lose that. They realize their source. But part of our experience is based on kind of, in effect, being wiped out and coming here and feeling like I'm an individual person. I'm not part of the source energy, right? I'm not part of that. I am by myself. I'm my own thing. I'm a separate entity by myself. So as that works out, now we disconnect from the source energy and we go through life thinking we're one individual. And we want to get away from that idea because we're not. We're one energy. But on the other side of it, in order to have this experience, I need the identity to believe that I'm separate. Make sense? Everyone's like, I don't know. But it kind of makes sense. But so that's the way it works. So basically what happens is I need to have an identity when I come. So we're going to start at the beginning and kind of work our way forward. The identity, you chose your identity prior to coming based on the experience you wanted to have. You came to have an emotional experience, you chose the identity. It's very different, your life's gonna be very different based on the identity you chose. So think about it, so I chose to be an Italian guy from New York who was Catholic. My experience is gonna be very different than a woman who chose to be Japanese, right? Because you're a whole different culture, a whole different life, a whole different thing. So the first thing you want to understand is, okay, I chose this identity first. You chose it. So you chose your gender. Now, before I get in trouble, I'm going to stick with two genders. I know right now we got a lot going on with all the gender stuff, right? We have males, we got all these different things. California's actually teaching 52 genders, which we don't know what that means. But anyway, we're going to stick with two for the purpose of our conversation. So I don't want to get someone's going to see this video and send me a nasty message. But so you chose male or female, you chose your ethnicity, you chose your location to come in, you chose wherever you came in, that's what you chose. You chose again, all those different factors, all different things. You chose financially, what type of family you would come into, you chose the parents. So all those things become part of your identity here in the physical world. You start to have that identity. Now, one thing we want to remember is people respond to you based on your identity, correct? right? They're going to respond differently to me than they respond, they're going to respond differently to all different people based on many factors, right? How you look, how you carry yourself, what's going on, your confidence level, your energy, blah, blah, blah. Now I have all this stuff. So I come in, I have all this in my identity, and we are designed to survive, which means I now have come into, you have to remember, you come from a place of love and solidarity and source energy, and you come into this hostile environment. It's hostile, right? It's a hostile environment, and your household is a hostile environment. As humans, our first order of business is, how do I survive? How do I survive this hostility? How do I survive this hostile environment? I have to adjust to the environment that I'm in. And you're gonna do that as a kid. And you grew up in a certain household, and you said, okay, how do I survive with these people that I don't even like, but I'm here? So I had to figure it out. How am I gonna actually survive in this environment with these people? And you start to develop a skill set in order to do that. So you start developing your skills. Now, I want you to think about this for a minute. Based on your environment, what were the skills that you needed to survive in the household? So this will depend on how you were treated. Like, were you treated, was it an open kind of thing? Could you express your feelings? Could you go, now a lot of us who are boomers here, we didn't have that, oh, I'm gonna go to my mother with my problems. That was not it. If you had a problem, no one was gonna know. I don't know about you, but that was the bad word. It's like, I'm not telling anybody. I was driving trucks when I was a kid, 18 years old. I got held up at gunpoint. I came home, I never told my mother, because I knew that was not gonna be well received. So she was not gonna say, oh, you better never go back. She said, well, no big deal, go back to work, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. It's like, you're gonna buy a car, go to work, you're good. So, but this shows, so now, think of the impact this has as you grow up. You're like, okay, I have to hold all this in, because I'm afraid that if I don't hold it all in, I'm gonna be in trouble. And that stays with us. We don't just give it up. It stays in our system, it stays in our energy, it stays in our belief system, and then we start functioning that way, and that's how we navigate through. The other big factor that I want you to think about is expectations. So the expectations of the parents is a big deal on us in our identity. So what you think about growing up, what were the expectations that were placed upon you? And a couple of different things. Like when I work with people who are professionals, a lot of them, if they came from a family of doctors or lawyers or whatever, that was the expectation. Like, you could not be that. That was what you were supposed to. You're supposed to be the doctor, you're supposed to be the lawyer, you're supposed to be the Indian chief, whatever you're supposed to be. And now it becomes very difficult for them to say, I don't want to do that, because that's the expectation that has been placed. So you all have expectations that were placed on you, correct? Okay, so when you look at your life today, how much of an impact is that still having on you? Think about it. So think about that expectation, or there's another expectation, which was your role in the family. Okay, so think about what happens is, everybody, if you had a lot of kids in the family, or even a couple, everybody had a different job, right? You had a different, they call it family dynamics, right? You have, you're the oldest, you're the second, you're the third, whatever it is. My dad was the youngest of 12. So for him, he said he never, his mother, his relationship with his mother was like his big issue his whole life. His mother never even knew he was alive. She was in her 40s. No, because think about it. She's in her 40s back then. This is like 1933, he's born. And my aunts, his older sisters, raised him. They said, yeah, oh yeah, we took care of him. We said, the mother didn't even, So he spent his whole life trying to get her attention, and ultimately led to his demise, and he passed when I was 12 in a violent incident. He was a detective in New York City, and trying to get her to say, I know you're here, right? But this affects us. So it all is in there, and it's part of the journey that we came to have. So we want to look at it. So basically, the thing you want to look at is this: how attached are you to the identity? So what was your job at home? Who had the identity? So for example, my job, I was the oldest. I was 12 when my dad passed, but I was the oldest. I'm a boy, Italian, Catholic, guilt, the whole thing. So my job was be responsible, take care of everybody. You're the man, right? So that became my thing. Now what happens is that identity became how I saw myself as being a good person. Yeah, it helps. Yeah, so there's always yin yang, right? I'm very responsible. I'm very on time. I'm very reliable. That's good. But I go too far. I'll take on everything. Like we were just talking about this at work. I was the person who took on every project because I'm going to prove to you that I can do everything, right? That was my thing. Anybody wrong with it? But it's just like, you know, what I'm looking to see if I'm carrying part of it too far. That's what I'm looking to see. Is it because we all have it, like as Lorraine said, right? There's certain parts of it that are good. Like, okay, I picked up good things. Having that kind of personality is engaging. Having that kind of personality is disarming. So there's a lot of good things about it. But if I go too far, I could become offensive. I could push it too far. So you want to look at it and say, okay, we're basically looking to say, this is my identity. What do I want to keep? You know, what do I not want to keep? What do I want to keep? What don't I need anymore? And what's going on? So I'll give you a basic rule. Your attachment to the identity is where you get in trouble. Okay, so your negative ego, okay, if you think about it this way, and I'm going to use the word negative because, as I said, you need the ego to survive, equals false self. So the negative part of the ego that you're holding that you don't need is not who you really are. That's kind of an illusion of what you think you're supposed to be, versus who you really are, which is love, source energy. Your love source energy. So anything here that is not in a love-based space, you don't need. So now here's what happens when we go forward. As we go forward, some people, you're here today, so you woke up. Now, when you go in the world, do you feel like a lot of people woke up?
A lot.
No.
Not many. Right, so now it's getting better. More people are starting to wake up. Everybody, you know, I've been doing this forever. My wife and I have been doing this forever, since many, many years of work. And we're here to help people who are starting to, you know, and in all different phases of the wake up phase, whatever you want to call it. So, but most people think they're the thing. They're the identity. They're the ego. They're that person. So you see this a lot with actors, right, and actresses. They have a certain image that they have to have, and that's their thing. You see it a lot with politicians. You see it a lot with business people, right, that they have that whole shtick going on. As we go forward now, we're creating more separation, which we're already seeing, right? Because people who are awake are saying, okay, I don't want to do all this, and it's not necessary. But the people who are holding the identity, they need the identity to survive, because they don't know what else to do if they don't have it. So think about if I say, I'm going to strip your identity today, what are you going to do? I don't know. So, how do I go forward? You're going to strip it out. So let's look at how it works. So we've got the negative identity is all tied to fear-based feelings. Okay, the positive side of you, this true self, is all based on love-based feelings. So we want to live here, and we don't want to live here. So I want you to think about this identity as far as how it affects you going out to the world. I'll give you the easy way to do this. It's the easiest way to do it. It's hard to do it, but just to put it on your radar. When you're doing something, say to yourself, is this a love-based or fear-based action? Think about it that way. Is it a love-based action, or is it a fear-based action? Or is it a love-based thought, or is it a fear-based thought? So everything, now there are obviously pieces of this that we'll talk about, but if I have a fear-based driver, I'm holding myself in the negative space. Okay, if I have a love-based driver, I'm connecting to source. So we want to go up here into source energy, which is love-based. And in order to do that, I need faith. I need faith that if I do the love-based action, if I stay in this space, everything's going to be okay. Now, most of us, as humans, we're very fear-based as it is. Because, again, we come into the hospital, I'm trying to survive. Like, you know, I don't have faith in anything. Like, I could not trust the people in my house. Right? Think about it. Did you trust your family? No. Did anybody trust their family? Somewhat, yeah. There's no 100%. Nobody ever says, yeah. They were great. Yeah, I trusted every single thing that they were doing. I could say, well, you know, sometimes. If you get it sometimes, that's actually pretty good. Let me just tell you. That's better than most, because most people don't even get it sometimes. You get kind of not really. So, because you say to yourself, could I go to to me, if I'm in a love-based environment, that means I could go to that person with anything and feel safe and feel supported, right? I could feel that feeling of safety and support regardless of what happened. And here, I think most of us would say that was not the case. I did not feel safe. If you do not feel safe at home, now you have to go out into the world. Now you're really in trouble. Now I didn't feel safe in my own house. Now I have to go out into this hostile environment and try to be safe. And I don't trust anybody because look what happened to me in the house. These are the people who are supposed to be taking care of me. And I don't trust them. So how am I going to go out? So this is where it is. So let's look at some of these factors that we want to avoid here. So one of the big things with this is control. So the negative ego in the fear base wants to control everything. Does anybody have that desire? Let's be honest. Right? Does anybody have the desire to control? So desire is what I want. I want this, right? I want to live it, like, we obviously even look and say, oh, maybe we want to move somewhere else. You kind of look at, what do I want? Like, what kind of place do I want? What kind of amenities do I want? Those are desires. The idea is controlling the environment, which usually begins with controlling people. The desire to control people. So what are your parents trying to do to you? What are they trying to do? They're trying to control. Now, I don't want to say they have malice, because I don't want to say they have a bad intent, but think about it, they're fear-based. So what are they going to say to you? So when I was a kid, all I heard growing up was, get a job in a good company with benefits. That was it. Everybody's laughing because that's what you all heard, right? Nobody said, go be an entrepreneur. Nobody said, go go be a writer, nobody said that. So it was like, this is big. Why? Because they're afraid. That's what you're supposed to do. See, and we're conditioned to be fearful. Think about it. You go to school, what happens? If you don't stay in line, what happens? You get in trouble, right? I went to school with nuns, forget it. When you had nuns, you couldn't do anything. You were always sinning, you were always doing something wrong, you were always doing something wrong. No matter what you did, it was wrong. So you have to remember, this is pounded into your consciousness day after day after day. So people, then they say, well, I wanted my kids to be safe, so that's the advice that you got. Now, if you went back to them and said, oh, well, I'm not doing that. There was a story, did anybody ever see the show Modern Family? You ever see that show? So there's one guy, it was a good show, I forget, it's been on for a while, but it was back a couple of years back. But one of the guys on the show was on a TV show. He was on a show one day, and he said, when I was like 12, 13 years old, I went to my mother, and I told her I wanted to be a clown. So I thought to myself, if I was 13 years old, and I went to my mother, and I said, I want to be a clown, what would have happened to me? And I know I wouldn't be here today, because that would not have gone over well. And he said, oh, my mother was wonderful, and she said, that's what you want to do. Took me to the store, bought me the makeup and the wig and the tricks or whatever they would do. He said that, and that's how he started. And then he said, that took me into acting. So that's a wonderful story, right, when somebody says that. But most of us, if you went to your parents and said, I want to be a clown, even at 13, just say, oh, okay, wants to be a clown, he's 13. That probably wouldn't have gone over well, right? Say that's a career path that we're going to take. We're going to take the clown path. That's going to be the best way to go. So now we have the control that we have, because fear is about controlling your environment. So I want you to think about yourself. What are you trying to control? Think about it.
Yeah.
What?
Getting things done the way I feel they need to be done.
What does that mean? So let's think about it in a matter of controlling circumstances, right? I'm trying to control my environment the best way I can. A couple of things that people do that tip me off right away. When people are neat freaks, that's control.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
Right. So people are, Right. So when people are like that, like they'll see people like very fastidious. Oh, you can't have shoes in the house. You can't walk over here. You can't touch this. You can't touch that. I have to make sure. I'm cleaning everything every minute. I'm not. That's control. Like I don't like anything that's out of place. The other thing is controlling other people. So this is the one you really want to look at to say, do I feel like I have a desire, or am I trying to control others? So the idea is to say, there's certain things I can influence. There's certain things I can't. And I need to be able to definitively understand that. And then be able to say, okay, I can't control this. I need to let it go. This is something I can't control. Now, if there's something that I feel I can influence, I will maybe attempt to do that. Or now sometimes, when we're dealing with other people, it's kind of like saying, can I get along with this person? Obviously, you're not together, so you couldn't get along. So that obviously tells you, right? So, and there's a reason, right? You have different ways of,
Sure.
And I see this with people all the time. When they say, "Oh, I'm going out with someone, we really don't have the same views, but we like each other." I'm like, well, that's not going to work. Because, you can think that in the short term, but in the long term, as you go forward, believe me, you need to be like in the same game. You can't be like. You can't be over here and they're over here. You can't be like, I'm the neat person and you're the sloppy person. That's not, this is not the Odd Couple show. This is like, it's not, in real life, that does not work. Like, and that person's leaving all dishes in the sink and you're a neat freak. That's gonna be bad. So these are things that you can't control, right? I can't control that person's behavior because, now I could have a conversation and try to improve it, but sometimes you can't do that either. So you wanna look at, you say, what am I trying to control in my environment? So just look at your daily life and say to yourself, what am I trying to control? Like what are other people doing, what's going on? Whatever it is. It's all there's always, we have this built into us because it makes us feel safe. The idea of control is tied to being safe. We think we're safe, which we're not, because you really can't control anything. Because the universe just does what it does, and you just can control yourself. You can't really control anything, and all you can do with yourself is try to be at your highest energy on a normal day. So there's nothing you can really do about it, and the idea is very draining in your energy because now it's sucking energy out of me because I'm trying to control a situation that I can't, and it's making me tired because I can't, and it's frustrating, and it's aggravating. So you get to a point you say, okay, it's kind of like the serenity prayer, give me the grace, right, to understand what I can change, know the difference, right, what I can, what I can't change, and the wisdom to know the difference. Certain things you have to say, I can't, that's not my gig. I'm not gonna be able to do that, so I need to let it go. But it doesn't mean you're not upset about it, right? So we don't wanna just minimize it and say, well, okay, that's fine, I'm good with it. I need to be angry about it. I need to flush it through. I need to clear the energy out of my system. I need to go through that process, because if I don't, it's like I'm like ready to kill somebody, right? I'm bubbling it all up. And that's what we don't want. So we don't wanna have that feeling inside of us. We wanna say, okay, I'm accepting it, but I have to deal with the emotional elements of it. And I do that, I show people through meditation work how to get rid of it, but I don't want to resist. You never want to resist what you're feeling. Because if you resist what you're feeling, that creates that pressure within yourself. You say, well, I'm really feeling like this is bothering me, and it's frustrating when you can't fix it. I want to fix it, but I can't fix it. And it's like looking at the world in general. Right, you look at the world, what's happening? Is it a good scene? It's not a good scene. Right? There's no way to look at there's no way to look, I don't really watch a lot of news, but I mean, you can't miss everything. I'm in the gym or whatever it is. But I mean, you see what's happening in the world. You see think about the leadership of the world. Are they in an ego state? Think about the people who are running the world. What is their whole game?
Or attempting to run the world.
Well, they're not really. Well, they think they're running the world, but
No, I'm talking about the people that are attempting
yeah, to what?
to come into just
Control.
Right, they can't do it. But they think they're doing it, but they're losing, because overall the energy's going to shift and there's nothing they can do about it. But it's going to happen. So it's already happening. It's just that. So the other element of this is greed. Greed is a big part of negative ego because you want everything you want everything. And what is control about? When you look at government and you look at business people, and what are they trying to do? Take everything. They're not worried about you. I don't think Jeff Bezos is saying we're not paying our people enough. Right? He's trying to buy more stuff, get more power, get more control. right? The desire for power is there also. That's another very big one, is I want power, I want greed as part of that, I want to take the power, I want to take the whole thing. One of the areas that really, I think, really showed it at the highest level was when COVID first happened. And obviously they shut the country down, people couldn't go to work, and the idea was get people money, get people some money. Now, in an altruistic society, here, the first thing would have been, just get the people the money. But no, what do we have to do? We have to go in Congress and fight over the bill and who's gonna get what and who's gonna get what. Like, who's gonna get this much? You know, Barbie, you're a government person, right? Who's gonna get this, who's gonna get that? That's all negative ego. That's all it is, right? We're gonna win. That's another thing. They gotta win. They wanna win every time. They have to win. There's no giving in. And this is very tied into personal gain. That's a big part of it as well. And they're very, and you know, the people in the high egoic state are generally going to be very narcissistic. Because that's their whole thing, is everything is for me to take that. I want everything for myself. So this is something that you want to look at to say, we all have some of these traits, right? Because we're trying to be safe within ourselves. Right? We're trying to protect ourselves. We're trying to be safe. We want to have money. We want to have, we want to have certain things that we want. But that doesn't. I don't have to be greedy about it. But this is the way people operate. And when you deal, I've been dealing with business and sales for a long time. I saw this my whole life. We were talking about the rents in the area, right? Okay. Oh, the rents are going up. So what do I have to do? Instead of saying, well, I have a good tenant, I'm going to, be reasonable about it. So well, now I could get X. I want to get that person out. First thing they do is try to force the person out. That's not. Now, here's where these people don't realize this is going bad. Because we're all one energy, okay? When you hurt someone else, you hurt yourself. When you're mean to someone else, you're mean to yourself. When you're critical of someone else, you're critical to yourself. Because we're all the same energy. So therefore, but I don't know that because I'm in the bubble of negative ego. Right? I'm in the bubble of the negative ego, and I can't, all I'm looking at is my own glasses like this. And that's it. So if you look at your life today, what percentage of people that you're encountering or dealing with are over here? Anybody have a guess?
99%.
0.9.
That's very optimistic. Only 99? Anybody else? My belief, because I am fear-based, is that I did not influence my circumstance. So, when in reality, you created your circumstance. So we all created our life based on our energy, beliefs, feelings. So when people say to me, well, I didn't have an option because I was doing X, that is not true. You created that. There was a guy, I'll never forget, we're doing an event in New York, and this guy comes up to me at the end, we're talking, and he goes, oh, thanks, Cheryl, that was good. He said, I like what you're saying, but you know what, I have to work because I have a family, and this is what I have to do to take care of everybody. I said, well, that's nice. I said, but you're choosing to do that. So he said, no, I have to do that. So I said, no, you don't have to. I said, tomorrow, you could get up tomorrow and not go, right? Is that correct? He said, no, I have to go. So we went back and forth. I was like, okay, I can't really go any. It's like, I have a Costello routine now. It's like, all right, you have it, you can't go, you don't have to go. So, but I saw how dug in he was, right? So he's dug into the belief system that I have no option. I have to go to work to take care of my family. I don't have a choice. That is where we go wrong. Because we always have a choice if I want to get out of this. But people don't think so because they're afraid. Because they're afraid of what? This side. I have to have faith that if I leave this job that I hate, I don't know what will happen, and I'm afraid. If I leave this terrible relationship, I'm afraid. Right? So if I leave where I live, maybe I want to go somewhere else, I'm afraid. Because I don't know what will happen. Now, being afraid is okay, but if I don't do it, I'm stuck here all the time. So in this case, if you were around hostile people or negative people, that was where you placed yourself at that time in your life. Now you have to remember, your energy when you're 30 is not the same as your energy when you're 50 or 60. Well, a lot of people it is. A lot of people, how many people do you know who are basically the same their whole life?
Predicts future performance.
But you're talking about the third dimensional reality, not where they are here.
Right.
So that person could still be here, right? The successful person could still be in this space.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that they're here. So see, this is where we get caught up, right? We get caught up in the physical dimension reality. Oh wow, this person was this and now they're this, but where are they here? Where are they in their soul? We're looking to see where they are in their soul, not where they are in their life.
Oh, I know people that are permanently stuck.
Yeah, they're all here. Most people stay here because they're too afraid to come out. Because it's scary to come out. You know, that's why most people, that's what they do. You know, you go to school, you go to college, you get a job, you stay, you do what you do, because it's safer. It's a safer road. When you're gonna come into this road, now the scary part is, once you wake up, you're screwed. Because you can't now fall back to sleep, because it's like, oh, now I know it. And when I remember when this happened and I started waking up, I'm like, oh geez. Like, now I can't go back to being asleep because now I'm seeing everything as it truly is. I can't go back here, as much as some days I say, I wish I was here, because this is easier on some level, just to be asleep. You know, when they say ignorance is bliss, that didn't come up for no reason. That saying did not exist for nothing. That saying existed for a reason. So when we look at it and say, okay, I would love to go back here, but I can't. Now I'm awake, I know what's really going on, I know what's really happening. So I woke up and now I'm in an effort of trying to get rid of this, because I'm awake now and I understand how the world really works. And I understand that I cannot control anything. And all these things, if I'm carrying any of this and I'm working off a fear base, then I know that I'm gonna lower my vibration and I'm gonna lower my energy. And we wanna be in a higher space, which means I wanna be over here. So when we think about this and you say, I'm encountering mostly people here, correct?
Yeah.
Right. We're still humans.